A warm welcome to your Barbados Today Evening News Update for Thursday, September 23. A 53-year-old man is the island's 63rd COVID-19 casualty. He died at the Accident and Emergency Department of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital on Tuesday. His COVID-19 test, which was taken at the department on Tuesday, was returned a day later showing a positive result. He had comorbidities and was unvaccinated. Meanwhile, health officials report 161 new infections from 2,205 tests conducted by the Barbados Santos Public Health Laboratory on Wednesday. The new cases comprise 43 people who are under the age of 18 and the remaining 118 who are 18 years and over. There are 896 patients in isolation. Barbados has recorded 7,065 cases of the viral illness since March 2020. Under the National Vaccination Program for COVID-19, 99,921 persons have received their second dose, which translates to 36.9% of the population being fully vaccinated against the virus. The Democratic Labour Party is not buying government's explanation about an apparent scandal surrounding the purchase of COVID-19 vaccines for the country. The issue is now at the center of a legal action filed in the U.S. law courts last week. Radical Investment Limited, whose principal is named as local businessman Mark Maloney, filed the suit claiming to have been deceptively lured into an elaborate U.S. $10.2 million scam for 1 million non-existent doses of AstraZeneca vaccine through a Florida company of good vibrations. In an address to the nation yesterday, Bradshaw said government did not pay any money to Radical, but DLP President Verla de Pisa claims there are questions government still has to answer.
It is not enough to just say that so far we have not paid out any money, nor do I, as an attorney, knowing the relationship between an agent and a principal, nor am I comforted by simply hearing that the loss is not ours, but it is the agency, because that really depends on the agreement between the agent and the principal. So we need to know the details of the arrangement. We need to know what percentage, if any, commission was to be paid to the consortium here, especially since we know that there was a government representative on that body. So we are concerned. We need to know what that profit motive was, what that profit margin was. Because looking at the documents filed in the American courts, we're seeing a price tag of $10 a dose, when we know that Oxford AstraZeneca has made it very clear that they were dealing directly with governments or through high commissions, and that their price was $3 a dose. So we need to have some clarity given to the money aspect of it, to the
De Pisa says the scandal puts a damper on the government's vaccination drive.
The whole drive towards that education is now stilted. I've been fielding questions for the day. What about the other vaccines that we've received? Is there any controversy surrounding them? And that is why I am glad that Comrade Andre spoke about where we received those from and there being legitimate sources, because that comfort needs to be put out there, that the ones that we have received so far have come from legitimate sources. However, this particular batch, had it been successful, I don't know that we would be able to speak with similar confidence about their source, because there are just simply too many middlemen. So that we have to be now talking up the ones that we have already, whilst reassuring that we have not seen anything to suggest that there was anything untoward with those shipments, because they arrived from established channels and sources. But that was not going to be the case with this.
Meantime, the DLP's spokesman on health, Andrew Worrell, says the government is not on top of the recent surge of COVID-19 cases. He told reporters that government should relook its travel protocols and mandate a longer quarantine period.
If we are to win this fight against COVID right now, we will have to tighten the restrictions as suggested by the healthcare practitioners. The Democratic Labour Party, BAM, and virologists have suggested that we look at changing our travel protocols. We have not heard the government making any mention of increasing controls at the border. What was suggested is that we need to start having a mandatory 3-day quarantine with testing on the 3rd day so that we can track and identify all positive cases of COVID at the border, because we recognize that vaccinated persons are can be COVID positive as well. So this policy, which we currently have, where vaccinated persons only spend 1 night in quarantine, is clearly not sufficient.
In other news this Thursday, Minister in the Ministry of Finance, Ryan Strawn, says the decision of the opposition leader not to attend a meeting with the technical team from the International Monetary Fund was unfortunate. Strawn told journalists the meeting held on Tuesday was to discuss public financing and not the government's current economic program with the fund.
Which I think was unfortunate, because I think he would have benefited from the exchange with the fund. So the members were met with the technical assistance team from the IMF. We had a very robust and open discussion about process and what members' roles were with respect to that. We did discuss some aspects of the Public Accounts Committee. Unfortunately, the chairman, who happens to be leading the opposition, was not there, but other members who formed part of that committee were there and present and represented what they were doing as part of the Public Accounts Committee, and therefore there was nothing particularly untoward about the meeting, because it was really just how does the Ministry of Finance know, and in that context, the Parliament, how do we effectively say improve not just where the formulation of the budget lies with the Ministry, but Parliament's role as oversight, if you like, with respect to the budget process.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news now, Guyana says it will not resort to violence or threats, but instead hold steadfast to international law regarding its long-standing border dispute with Venezuela. President Dr. Efran Ali has been discussing the matter with the Secretary General of the Organization of American States. More in this report from News Source Guyana.
2 weeks ago, the Venezuelan government and the Venezuelan opposition agreed to maintain the neighboring country's claim over Essequibo, triggering an immediate response and rejection of the agreement from Guyana. During the meeting yesterday with the OAS Secretary General Luis Almagro, President Irfan Ali made it clear that while the Guyana government welcomes efforts to bring about domestic harmony within Venezuela, agreements that defy international law and processes can form no basis for mediating such harmony. According to the Office of the President, President Ali also stated that Guyana does not promote the use of violence or threats to settle controversies, but will look towards the court and the rule of law. Guyana currently has a case before the International Court of Justice seeking a final and binding judgment from the court that the 1899 arbitral award, which established the location of the land boundary between then British Guyana and Venezuela, remains valid and binding, and that Guyana's Essequibo region belongs to Guyana and not Venezuela. Venezuela has been fighting off the case before the ICJ and has not been participating in the matter, claiming that the court does not have jurisdiction.
On the international front, the U.S. Special Envoy for Haiti has resigned over what he has called the inhumane treatment of Haitian migrants by the U.S. government. In a letter, Ambassador Daniel Fruit knocked the U.S. policy to deport thousands of Haitians seeking asylum. More in this report from Al Jazeera News.
It's been a problem for the Biden administration. We watched the White House press secretary Jen Psaki for days struggling to answer reporters' questions when sort of the obvious hypocrisy is being pointed out with regard to the Biden administration's immigration policy along the border. Number one is that Haitians are being rounded up and sent back to their country, while others are being welcomed in some cases to the United States from Central America. And of course, we've just seen one of the biggest humanitarian airlifts out of Afghanistan. So reporters are asking what makes the Haitians' claims any different. The parallels are eerily similar. The fact that they are also fleeing failed state status type situations where there's corruption, there is there is no economic opportunity, there's gross poverty, a lack of resources. But the Biden administration has repeatedly said that they are simply enforcing the policy they inherited.
That's news, but for the very latest, you can visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.